My name is Carmela, and today I will be walking you through the steps from the time that you apply for your TCF Canada to the time that you receive your results, and also what to expect if you haven't yet signed up for the exam. So first things first, you need to contact your local TCF Canada Center to apply for the exam, pay the fees required, receive an online receipt, and information on what to expect on the day of the test. So things like where to park, location of the exam center, and the exam date. So on the exam date, first things first, you want to make sure that you arrive early, and by early, at least 15 minutes on time, even if you have to wait at the door, because if you miss that test, you will have to reschedule, and it's not cheap. So next, all the examinees will meet at the reception area. That's where there will be a head count, just making sure everyone's there. They might wait a few minutes if anyone's running late, but I still would suggest against arriving late. So once the roll call is done and everyone is there, invigilators will head to the examination room, make sure everything is okay, all the computers are set up. They probably might have done that before, but just a final check just to make sure everything's okay. And then once that's ready, they'll call all the examinees into the examination room. After everyone has been seated, the examiner will run over a few instructions, what to expect. They most likely will suggest that you use the washroom ahead of time, just for peace of mind. And then once everyone's ready, you will be given a code. Once you put in the code, there will be a set of pre-recorded instructions that will explain how to use the computer, how to select a response, how to exit the test, and all those kinds of things. I would suggest for this section you pay attention, because at the very bottom of the test there are two buttons. The button on the left would say end this part, and the button on the right would say end this exam. If you click that, obviously it will end and you have to reapply, pay again, and we all know that would be a stressful process. So if the pre-recorded instructions are not clear, just put up your hand and ask the examiner, and they will explain to you what those buttons are. Once the instructions are all done, the next part will be the actual test. The first portion of the test will be the compréhension orale, so listening, and that will be 9 questions for 35 minutes. Because they are listening questions, I would suggest that you pay attention and listen attentively. Don't let your mind wander, because you could miss a question, and obviously we don't want that to happen. So for the compréhension orale, it is timed 35 minutes. At the end of each question, you will hear a ding, which will show the time's up for that question, and it will automatically move to the next question. So you don't click the buttons at the bottom left and bottom right, because those could end the test. They do not mean next. Just wait for the timer to run out. Once it runs out, the next question will automatically appear. And once you've run through all the questions, the next section will be the compréhension écrite, reading section. So the next section will be the reading section, compréhension écrite, 39 questions for 60 minutes. So unlike the first part, the whole section is timed. Not each question here. You can skip questions and turn to them later on, so as long as you're within the 60 minutes. You have to make sure though that you finish the questions all until the end, because if you miss any questions, you could lose points. Why I insist on the importance of finishing all the questions is because of all the 39 questions in the compréhension écrite and compréhension orale, so listening and reading, the points increase with each level. So say compréhension orale will have maybe like 5 points for the first 5 questions and 30 points for the last questions. So the last questions actually have a higher score than the first questions. Why? Because they correspond to a more advanced level. So 1 to 39, 39 being the most advanced, and questions 1 to 5 being the least advanced. So obviously, the more you answer your questions, the higher your score is going to be. And so once you're done with the compréhension écrite and you've reached the end, so obviously if you finished your exam, you finished this section before the timer runs out, you can always select end this section to the next part. But obviously before you do that, it would be better if you put up your hand, call the invigilator, and confirm, because you wouldn't want to randomly click them, because if you do, you know. Anyways, so the final section of the computer-based exam will be the expression écrite. You will be given 60 minutes. There will be 3 questions. The first question is usually a short text of 60 to 120 words, could be a letter or an email asking for information. The second task will be about 120 to 150, an article, an email, a blog, where you're just supposed to give your opinion. And task 3 will be roughly about 120 to 180 words, where you're supposed to give your point of view. So just a few pieces of advice about the exam. So when it comes to the expression écrite, the writing section, you have to make sure that your titles are attractive, that your sentences are clear, detailed, structured, because say for example we're having a conversation now and I was just talking about random stuff going from left to right, up to down. Obviously it would be hard to understand, right? So your ability to structure your sentences from introduction, explanation, conclusion, using words like however, but, in conclusion, would actually add more value, more flavor to your expression écrite exam. You also have to make sure your ideas are correlated and your vocabulary is correct for that context. The main thing is that you have to make sure your point is carried across. After the 60 minutes for the expression écrite is done, a timer will ding, and it will be time for you. Will tell you, so before you head out, the examiner will tell you what time to come back, and once you come back, so it will be time for the expression écrite. So the whole expression écrite is 12 minutes, 2 minutes of preparation, and it has 3 tasks. The first task, you will be required to present yourself to a stranger, so just talk about yourself for 2 minutes. If you don't have anything to say, the examiner will try to help you, push you to talk more, because obviously the more you talk, the more points you get. Second part will be asking for information. You will have 2 minutes to prepare, and this section will be 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and you will need to just keep asking the examiner questions until the very end. So during your preparation time, make sure you wrote down brief notes about what you had to ask the examiner. And then the third part will be spontaneous speaking, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And in this section, you will try to convince the examiner. So imagine a situation where you're having a conversation with someone, you're in a debate, and you're trying to make them understand your point of view. So in this situation, you have to make sure that your points are clear so that it goes right straight through them. You have to make sure that you're having a conversation. Even if they are an examiner, they are also a person. So just try to have a conversation, basically. If the question is a formal question, make sure you vous voyez. If it's a casual situation, just make sure you use tu. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the examiner will have a device that will be recording your audio while you're speaking, and that will be graded both in France and I believe in Canada, just to make sure that it is fair. Once all that's done, recordings have been sent, the invigilator or the receptionist will tell you when you will receive your results. Most times it's within 2 weeks. And so a bit of final advice for those taking the exam. I know it can be challenging. We do get nervous, but don't be nervous. A lot of people have gone through these exams. Just do all you can, put in the work, study, revise. Just make sure you've done everything. There are a lot of resources online that can help you pass your exams, and not just pass, excel in your exams. And I will do my best to provide as much content as I can to help you out. I know, yes, it can be a really nerve-wracking situation, but it is possible for someone who is at A1 level to score full score, C2, C1. That would be because there are some resources. There are these sites where there are mock tests. They always bring back questions from previous years. So the more mock tests that you do, the more idea you'll have of the answers. They don't even switch the questions in some way. They are the exact questions. So if you want to know more information, just watch my next video. I will put a link in the description. And yeah, I will do everything I can to make sure that you pass your exam, because, oof, goodness, exams. But anyways, see you in the next video. Bye, thanks for watching.